Sometimes the smallest things can make the biggest statement. A tiny object, almost invisible at first glance, can carry a weight of meaning far beyond its size. Pins, badges, and little emblems have long been used to express identity, allegiance, or even a sense of humor. They're more than just accessories. They're conversation starters, symbols, and sometimes even silent acts of rebellion. A simple pin on a jacket can tell a whole story without a word. It can represent a cause, a memory, or a personal belief. For some, it's a way to quietly stand out in a crowd, to show a bit of personality in a world of uniforms and expectations. In politics, these personal touches offer a rare glimpse behind the formal curtain of power. They remind us that even the most powerful leaders are individuals, each with their own quirks and preferences. Sometimes, a pin is a subtle nod to a cause, a hometown, or a cherished value. On January 9, 2026, inside the White House, President Donald Trump hosted a high-stakes meeting. The air was thick with anticipation, as world leaders and advisors gathered to discuss matters of global importance. Every detail was scrutinized, from the seating arrangements to the color of the ties. But it wasn't the guest list or the agenda that caught everyone's eye. It was a tiny, colorful pin on the president's lapel. Cameras zoomed in, journalists whispered, and social media lit up with speculation. What did it mean? Was it a message, a joke, or just a personal touch? The pin, a cartoonish, cheerful depiction of Trump himself, injected unexpected humor into a day of serious global discussions. It was a playful wink in a room full of stern faces, a reminder that even in the most formal settings, there's room for a little levity. In a world of strict protocol and carefully managed images, this playful accessory broke through the formality. It sparked smiles, eased tension, and for a moment, made the room feel a little more human. It reminded everyone that behind the titles, there are real people with unique personalities. Even the most powerful figures have their own ways of expressing themselves, sometimes in the smallest, most unexpected ways. That small choice soon had people talking across the country and the world. News outlets debated its meaning, and social media users shared their own stories of memorable pins and personal touches. This story takes you inside that day, exploring how one little pin became a memorable, very human moment in the middle of history. It's a reminder that sometimes, the details we almost miss are the ones that matter most. Because sometimes, politics is about the small, personal moments that make history interesting, and remind us that even in the halls of power, a little personality can make a big splash. The East Room of the White House, steeped in history and power, set the stage for this pivotal event. On that Friday, the room was arranged for serious business, not celebration. A long table surrounded by the nation's most influential figures dominated the space. The mood was tense. Decisions here would impact global energy and international relations. The urgent focus, America's strategy for Venezuela's vast oil reserves, after the dramatic capture of President Nicolas Maduro. The administration was eager to discuss how U.S. companies could restart Venezuela's oil production, shifting the global balance. The East Room became the command center for a moment that would ripple across the world. Into this high-stakes environment, President Trump entered, wearing not just his agenda, but a small, whimsical pin that would soon steal the spotlight. Around the table sat the titans of American energy, CEOs from Chevron, Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Shell, and more. These leaders weren't just observers, they were key players in shaping the future of U.S. energy dominance. Their expertise and resources would be crucial in revitalizing Venezuela's oil industry. Alongside them were top administration officials, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and Secretary of Energy Chris Wright. Their presence signaled a united front and the gravity of the mission. The room buzzed with influence and ambition, as government and industry prepared to reshape the global energy map. And in the midst of this power, a small pin on the president's lapel added an unexpected twist. Amid the sea of dark suits and flag pins, one accessory stood out, a small round button with a cartoon Trump, grinning widely. It was a surprising pop of color and humor in an otherwise serious setting, instantly catching the eye of anyone who glanced his way. The pin seemed almost out of place, yet somehow perfectly at home on the lapel it adorned. Playful and unconventional, it was quickly dubbed the Happy Trump pin. The nickname spread among attendees and reporters alike, who couldn't help but smile at the sight of the cheerful cartoon face. It became a talking point, a lighthearted distraction from the weighty matters at hand. The pin, a gift rather than a calculated statement, featured a bright stylized drawing of Trump's face. Its exaggerated smile and bold colors made it instantly recognizable, a playful caricature that softened the formality of the moment. It was a reminder that even powerful figures appreciate a touch of whimsy. It wasn't the first time he'd worn it, but this was its most high-profile appearance. Previously, the pin had made subtle cameos at smaller gatherings, but never before had it been so prominently displayed in front of such a distinguished audience. Its presence in the stately East Room created a humorous contrast, quintessentially Trump. The ornate surroundings and solemn faces only made the pin's cheerful expression more noticeable and perhaps more meaningful. By wearing it, he signaled confidence and ease, breaking the tension in a room full of serious faces. The pin became a subtle message. Even in the midst of important decisions, there's room for levity and self-assurance. The pin reminded everyone that even in the midst of global negotiations, Trump didn't take himself too seriously. It was a visual cue that he was comfortable in his own skin, unafraid to stand out or inject a bit of fun into the proceedings. It was a small object, but it spoke volumes about his leadership style, unconventional, direct, and always ready to surprise. The pin was more than just an accessory. It was a statement about embracing individuality and not being afraid to break the mold. Sometimes, a little humor can say more than 1,000 words. In a world where every gesture is analyzed, the Happy Trump pin was a reminder that leadership can be bold, unexpected, and even a little bit fun. The Happy Trump pin set the stage for a classic Trump moment, one that would soon be replayed across news channels and social media feeds. It was a small accessory, but it caught everyone's attention, hinting at something more than just a fashion choice. Fox News reporter Peter Doocy, never one to miss a detail, asked about the unusual accessory, his question cutting through the usual press conference chatter. The room quieted, waiting for Trump's response. Trump, seizing the moment with his trademark showmanship, identified it as the Happy Trump pin and delivered his punchline. And consider the fact that I'm never happy. The line was delivered with perfect timing, his grin making it clear he was in on the joke. The room chuckled, but he didn't stop there. I'm never satisfied. I will never be satisfied until we make America great again. The familiar slogan, delivered with a twist, drew even more laughter and applause. Laughter and applause followed, as the familiar slogan echoed through the room. For a moment, the tension of politics gave way to a shared joke, uniting the audience in a rare moment of levity. In just a few sentences, Trump blended self-deprecation with his core message, showing that he could poke fun at himself while still driving home his relentless ambition. The joke reinforced his image as a tireless leader, always pushing for more, never quite satisfied with the status quo. It was a glimpse into his mindset, restless, determined, and always striving. But we're getting pretty close, he added, offering a hopeful note that suggested progress, even if perfection was always just out of reach. In that brief exchange, he was funny, firm, and forward-looking, balancing humor with a clear sense of purpose. It was a reminder of how he could command a room with just a few words. The pin and the joke became a snapshot of his presidency, unpredictable, memorable, and always on message. Even the smallest details became part of his larger narrative. Sometimes a single line can define a leader. In this case, it was a joke, a pin, and a promise, all rolled into one unforgettable moment. The president's joke landed perfectly, instantly lifting the serious mood. Executives and cabinet members broke into genuine laughter, sharing a rare moment of levity. Trump's humor built rapport, making him seem more approachable, even to the most powerful people in the country. The laughter wasn't just polite, it was a nod to his unique charisma and showmanship. For a moment, the weighty topics faded, replaced by camaraderie and shared purpose. The Happy Trump pin and the joke acted as a pressure release valve, reminding everyone of the human side of leadership. In high-stakes negotiations, sometimes a little laughter is the best strategy. In the digital age, a White House moment can go viral in seconds. News of the Happy Trump pin and the president's joke exploded across social media. On X, the hashtag #DarnHappyTrump trended as users shared photos and reactions. Supporters celebrated the pin as a symbol of Trump's authenticity and humor. Comments like, Only Trump would do this, flooded the feeds, and demand for the pins soared. Merchants rushed to create replicas, turning the pin into instant political merchandise. Critics, meanwhile, called it unprofessional, arguing it distracted from serious policy. But the overwhelming response was amusement and enthusiasm. Once again, Trump dominated the news cycle with a single, unconventional moment. In politics, sometimes a pin can spark a national conversation. While the Happy Trump pin captured headlines, the real business was deadly serious. The main agenda: Venezuela's oil future after Maduro's capture. The U.S. aimed to stabilize markets and secure economic benefits by restarting Venezuela's oil production with American companies. The meeting focused on investment, logistics, and rebuilding a crumbling industry. But the conversation didn't stop there. Global issues like the Russia-Ukraine war and European energy security were also on the table. Trump even revived talk of acquiring Greenland, signaling his administration's bold, assertive approach to strategic assets. The day's discussions showed how energy, economics, and geopolitics are deeply intertwined. In the midst of it all, a small pin reminded everyone that history is shaped by both big decisions and small moments. History remembers treaties and elections, but it's the small human moments that make politics memorable. The Happy Trump pin and the joke it inspired made the president seem more relatable, cutting through the usual formality. These moments offer a glimpse of the person behind the title, resonating with millions. They're powerful political tools. Memorable images and witty lines can outlast policy papers. Trump's pin was more than an accessory. It was a masterstroke of political theater. It reminded us that history is woven from both seriousness and unexpected charm. Small details add color to the political landscape, making it more engaging for everyone. Even in the highest echelons of power, there's room for personality, laughter, and a little pin that steals the show. Sometimes, it's the smallest things that leave the biggest mark.